Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Truth Report Live. Like I said before, we come to you live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. for the hour until 1 p.m., where we discuss happening things, not just in South Africa, but also internationally, the week that was and what might come in the following week. As you can see, I've got with me Stefan ZA. I actually don't know your surname, Stefan, but we'll get to that. And I have David Tunes with me as well. Some of you may recognize his artwork cartoons if you are a member or if you are a subscriber or part of the WhatsApp channel. We often share his tunes on our social media, and there are some really awesome bangers there. So I think David's coming in hoping that maybe some of the people in the live chat might give some tune ideas, especially on the topics that we're going to talk about today, which I think will be pretty cool. To give some ideas to David and keep those creative juices flowing. But gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I was waiting for David to answer, and
David's a man of very little words. I get the feeling.
Yeah,
we should actually have a screen.
My talking through the drawings. So let's try to see how we go today.
We should actually just have a screen here where David could just draw. People can watch him draw as he goes. That would be awesome. Like a Bob
we
Ross.
Can maybe set something. We can maybe set something up next time. That'd be pretty cool. All right, good gents. Let's get right into it. So our first topic, at least for as long as this is going to be making headlines and people are going to be talking about it, is Iran. What are the developments that have happened in the past week? Well, there has been more deaths on the American side, but not a lot. It sounds like it's just an Army Sergeant Benjamin Pennington, identified as 7th U.S. service member, killed in U.S.-Iran conflict. And since last week, we've also seen the what's it called? Well, Trump has been warning Iran that they shouldn't close the
Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz. Thank you very much. But I don't think Iran is going to listen to that threat. For those of you who don't know, the Strait of Hormuz is a common trade route, especially for oil. A lot of the world's oil, 20%, I believe, goes through that channel or that strait, and Iran has threatened to close it off and prevent people or ships from going through. I believe they've already started, and Trump is saying, hey, Iran, stop, otherwise we'll hit you 20 times worse than we've already have. Gents, I'd like to get your opinion on that if you have any. We'll start with David. What do you think about this situation?
I thought that he had sorted it out. Wasn't this with Lloyd's? And he had sorted it out, and he said, "Don't worry, I'm bringing my ships in. We bringing in everything in. Soon as Iran doesn't have a navy anymore, we've got it covered." So what's happening? Aren't they coming out yet? Where's the oil coming?
That's very true. Now, I think that Iran is just trying to choke the U.S. and other countries as much as possible. Stefan, what do you think?
So there's a couple of interesting things here. The first is that the Houthis are effectively now the arm of the Iranians being used to try and they can't shut down the Strait of Hormuz. It is true, Iran no longer has a navy. Just this morning, we found out that about 51 of their most capable naval ships have already been sunk, turned into submarines, as David, joked before the street. So, they're now patrolling the bottom of the oceans. And so you do have Iran in a very weird, precarious position now. The Houthis have stepped in and they're going to try and, but effectively, you don't have to shut down the strait. All you have to do is make it so dangerous that insurance companies have already done this, deny insurance for ships for sailing through the Strait of Hormuz, and suddenly you're a big oil tanker carrying hundreds of billions of dollars worth of oil, you're not taking that risk, because if that sinks, you just paid a lot of money for something that's now basically ruined the Strait of Hormuz. So I think Iran is basically doing sort of like a last-ditched effort here, because they know this is their final play. If they can't shut down the trade in the Strait of Hormuz, it effectively removes one of... So if you would permit me to just go a little bit deeper here, there's two very strict timelines that we have to be, and these are self-imposed timelines, but these are timelines that Trump and the Americans are under. The one is the elections in November, which, if the midterms happen and this war is not sorted out, the Republicans are going to get a thrashing in the House and in the Senate. This would make Trump's last 2 years in office basically irrelevant. It would be like the last 2 years of his first term. The Democrats will just throw him with every single court case and impeachment case that they can possibly imagine. So that's the first timeline. It has to be done before then. And the other is, if the Strait of Hormuz is completely shut down, oil prices may go over $100 a barrel. We could probably start looking at $120, $140 a barrel. If that happens, the world economy will go into a recession. This will also be a timeline where the Trump administration would then just start experiencing the entire world screaming at them, stop this. So Iran is sort of playing with that part of it, because they know if everything goes on the way that it is, they'll lose before the November midterms. But if they can shut down the Strait of Hormuz, even just for 4 weeks, that would put significant pressure on America. So that's sort of where we are now.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with you. I think that is the Iranian play. But the question is, we've seen how Trump, has delivered on his threats. This isn't a guy that you necessarily want to see or want to call his bluff, right? So, if Trump threatens that he's going to bomb 20 times over, you think that's going to happen? You think that's a possibility? You think he's going to actually do that? He says he's going to destroy Iran.
Are you asking me or?
Yeah, sorry, I'm asking Stephen.
One where it was like, how do you destroy Iran that you're trying to save? So you've got to be doing it in quite a technical way. I mean, how do you just go destroy the place? So I was a bit confused in that, but yes, I do think he's a man. Says he's going to do it. He's doing it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. One of the videos that I'm working on for Truth Report is why the world is so baffled by Trump. Like, what makes him such a special sort of case. But ultimately, President Trump is a businessman. And one of the things in business, anyone that's ever been in business, what in business is the last thing you need is people thinking that you're a man of empty threats. If you're willing to walk away from the table, you have to walk away from the table. You can't say, I'm willing to walk and then sit down, right? So I think President Trump has sort of backed himself up in proving that he's willing to do it. But it's interesting when you look at what's been bombed. The Pentagon released a number of bombing maps and sort of strategic maps of things that's been taken out. The parts of Iran that has, as of yet, not been touched by the Americans is the vast majority of drone manufacturing, although the Americans have started systematically taking these offline. I think that has something to do with Russia. Basically, the Americans are telling Russia, by the way, if you don't stop the war in Ukraine, we could always just start playing, let's kill all of your drone manufacturing. So that might be a bargaining chip there, although we don't know exactly how many drones Russia is already manufacturing inside Russia. So it might be that Russia doesn't even need those anymore. But ultimately, those have only recently started being bombed. And then very specifically, it would take about 15 well-placed missiles, ballistic missiles, for the Americans to bring Iran back to the Bronze Age. Basically shoot down all of its infrastructure. So basically all of its electricity, all of its water, all of its manufacturing, everything just comes to a standstill. The Trump administration has been very careful, and President Trump actually said this in Florida this morning in a press conference. They don't want to bomb those targets because it would take decades for Iran to rebuild. So even once this threat is over, the Iranian people would be screwed. right? So from President Trump's perspective, they're sort of looking at the Islamic regime and going, if you don't surrender, we will just bomb you back to the Bronze Age, and then you guys can figure this out for yourselves. But it is possible. So I don't know how far, because that would basically, I think, that would be sort of the nuclear option without using nukes, because the Iranian people will never forgive the Americans if that happens. Because imagine South Africa load shedding 24 hours a day. There's just nothing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a very interesting situation in terms of, like, you got a man who's leader of the free world, very powerful army, who says stuff like this, which I don't think he should have said this. I like, just like maybe not in these words, if that makes sense. Like, this kind of sounds like someone who's throwing his toys out of the cot, and trying to showboat and trying to puff his chest and all that stuff. Just why can't you say it not in a nice way, but just in a diplomatic, leader-like way? Like, Iran, we're giving you a warning. We do not do this. We will retaliate. You've seen what we've done. This is our warning. That's it. Keep it short and sweet. I gotta say things like death, fire, and fury will rain upon them. Like, come on, man. Like, that's a bit like over the top. What do you think, David? Is this a cartoon opportunity for you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at when he talks and you think, did he just actually say that? But I'm waiting myself laughing because it's so funny and it's crazy. You think, what the hell? No one would normally say this. So sometimes, like, I thought diplomacy is not in his vocab. And maybe you should just give it to Marco or JD Vance and let someone else talk. It's like, here we go. This is what I'd like to say. Now, please let the other people know what I want to say.
He doesn't even have to use them. He can use ChatGPT and just say, listen, ChatGPT, every time I input something, make sure it sounds presidential but still leader-like and, tough, but just not crazy. Because, look, this doesn't help Trump when he says stuff like this. A lot of people on the left don't like him. They hate him. Trump deranged syndrome. Now, I am in favor of Trump when it comes to, we had Trump and Biden. Of course, I'm going to choose Trump over Biden. And we had Trump and Kamala Harris and all that. So I'm going to choose Trump. But is he the best person to be leading the free world? I don't think so. I think there's other far more better people to lead that world. But Trump, in my view, as much as I don't like what he says, and this is an excellent example, I still think he's doing good to the world. And people have to understand that he has put America first. That's what him and his administration are focusing on right now. And if you look at this strategy that he's doing, and you look and you really analyze what he's doing, everything he has done so far from the beginning of this year has been in an effort to benefit America and Americans, to protect them. Iran is a tyrannical dictatorship with funding terrorists and attacking many Americans over the years, not just Israelis, but Americans as well. They fund some of the most radical terrorist groups in the world. So Trump's going after the head of the snake. Same with Maduro, one of the biggest drug dealers / human traffickers / whatever you want to call it. All these evil things was Maduro. Also tyrannical dictatorship. They had an election and he was like, no, I don't want to leave. I'm not going to pass on. I'm not going to let the next president take over. I'm the president. He's a false president. And Venezuela said this. Iranians were rejoicing in the streets. Venezuelans were rejoicing in the streets. Many of them very, very happy about what Trump did. And yes, there's going to be a bit of a teething process. There's going to be a bit of backlash. There's going to be a bit of an up and down for a little while. But I think Americans will benefit from this. Stephen, I saw you shaking your head a little bit, but maybe you can agree or disagree.
Okay, so I agree broadly with everything you said. Where I sort of just wanted to highlight a couple of things. You said, for example, you don't think Trump is the best person for the job. I would go so far as to say he's the only person for the job. So one of the things that I really want conservatives to start realizing is that there is no negotiations with the left. The conservative movement loves to have this sort of, oh, but if he just stops saying that, the left will because the left already hates him and he says this and it gives them more ammunition. The left will turn everything into ammunition. It doesn't matter whether he's saying it nicely. And you sort of see this. The left went after George W. Bush, the most evil man alive. Wada. Then Mitt Romney runs against Barack Obama. Mitt Romney is the most evil man alive. He's just an absolute war hawk, whatever. And both of those are true, by the way. But then Barack Obama comes to power and the left loves him, right? Everything he does is just absolutely perfect. Whenever the Republicans run against the Democrats, the Republican is the most evil person alive. Then Donald Trump comes to power or starts running, and the left's like, why can't you guys just put someone presidential, right, on the ticket? If you just put someone nice on the ticket, we wouldn't be so mean towards him. And it's like, well, you weren't nice to any of the previous Republicans. Now this one, and it's always this promise of, oh, but if you just did what they want is a leftist, right? That's who they want in power, someone who thinks exactly like them. So I think President Trump is doing the right thing here by saying, look, I don't care about any of this. I'm not interested in your popularity. And again, this comes to he's a businessman, not a politician. You had Barack Obama saying nice things for 8 years, bombing the living hell out of the Middle East, right? He dropped more bombs than any other president in American history in the Middle East. Barack Obama was once asked, and he jokingly said, it turns out I'm really good at killing. Like that was a joke to him, right? And he joked in one of the interviews, I believe it was with the Wall Street Journal, where he said, the boy who dates my daughter needs to be careful because I have access to suicide drones. That was his joke, right? So Barack Obama was a very evil man, but because he spoke nicely, people went, oh, well, he makes me feel so good. Trump is more like, I'm going to say this and I'm going to make the whole world wonder, would he actually do that though? Like, I'm reminded of that scene in Tropic Thunder where Tom Cruise goes, you would need a resolution from the United Effing Nations.
Yeah.
That scene, that's Trump in a nutshell. He is the bull in the China shop. And let's be real, the China shop is corrupt and needs to be cleaned out. And that's what he's doing. So I don't have a problem with how President Trump speaks, because I don't think anything you say will ever adhere to the left. And then more importantly, I don't think Trump is just America first. When you actually look, for example, the Iranian football, the women who played football in Australia, they refused to sing the Iranian national anthem. And many of them are now under threat of being jailed as soon as they get back as soon as they get back to Iran. And President Trump he personally called the Prime Minister of Australia to tell him, do whatever you need to do to give these women refugee status. And if you can't, we'll take them. These women deserve to be kept safe. So I think Trump genuinely cares about the people of this world, but he doesn't like the globalists, he doesn't like the leftists, and he certainly does not like the BRICS coalition, as it were. So yeah, that's the only things I disagree on. Everything else you said, I'm firmly on your side on that. Yeah.
And I mean, I think really, it's a situation where it's become an absolute joke. It doesn't matter what he does or what he says. The Democrats do not like him. I mean, It's a typical example of the voting. I mean, you have to have an ID to vote. I mean, we do.
That's basic.
How can that be bad? How can that be bad? How can you say no? You can't have an ID because people aren't clever enough to get. What the hell? Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
It's a perfect example, actually.
I saw a meme. Oh man, I wish I saved it or bookmarked it. But it was is a meme of a guy wearing the Trump, "Make America Great Again." So it's like two frames on the top and two frames at the bottom. So the one frame at the top on the left was a lefty saying, "You're a Nazi," to the guy who's wearing the Trump hat. Then underneath, and it said 2021 or something like that, or 2020. And then underneath it said 2026. Same lefty saying "Jew" to the same guy wearing the hat. So to you guys' point, it just illustrates, the left is gonna hate Trump no matter what, and Trump supporters.
Well, it's and this is something that goes too much deeper, and we probably don't even have the time. I would have to make a 45-minute video to actually lay out the case on this, but it ultimately comes down to the following: man is a worshiping creature. If we don't worship God, we find something else to worship. This is just bog standard throughout human history. The left reject God on all fronts, and so you have the left embracing climate science, you have the left embracing politics, social justice, whatever it needs to be, and then it becomes religious. Now, if you go to a Christian or you go to a Muslim or to any person who is religious, and you tell them your Bible is false or your Quran is false, their immediate response to that, because it is a religious response, would be to say, "What the hell are you talking about?" Right? There would be an immediate rejection of whatever it is you're saying. This is what the left does. So if you're not part of their cult, their religion, you are automatically the other side, right? It's an us versus them response. It's tribal. It's built into us. And so, it doesn't matter how you speak or how you think. Everything. I read this incredible line today in a behavioral psychological paper that I was researching for AI and how AI is affecting us. And it said, the mistake that most people make is thinking that humans are rationally processing information. We do not process information. We filter information. Nothing gets processed. We just filter it. I hear what you're saying, and it goes through a filter. BS filter or real? And that's based on my bias. So if Biden says something and I'm a lefty, I go, wow, that's the most coherent sentence I've ever heard in my life, even though he was babbling for most of it. If Trump said something, he just babbles and I don't understand anything he says. Right. So we just filter.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Like, there definitely is a filter that human has. We're also emotional creatures, right? So I think that also contributes to the way that we think sometimes. And the woke mind virus is probably the worst of the worst. But make no mistake, there is also woke right individuals as well. There's different sides of the coin, but behave in the same way, just on different sides of the coin. Let's move on with some of the other news that's come in with Brazil. We go over to Brazil now. Wait, first I wanted to mention this because you mentioned Tropic Thunder, which, by the way, is one of my favorite movies. There we have Tom Cruise as, I think his name is something Grossman.
It's Grossman.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is when he's like, "I'm gonna rain."
He swears a lot.
I don't want to completely do it word by word on the show, but great scene and perfect example that you brought up there. But let's move on to the next story, which is basically still within the same kind of realm here, where Brazil's Lula warns Ramaphosa of invasion risk if defense lag. Now, David, come on, man. There is a cartoon opportunity right here. I'm going to read some of the article, not all the article, because this I think is going to make you guys laugh a little bit. Like, this is the comical relief part of the show. So Lula said, this is the president of Brazil. He said, "I don't know if comrade, that goes to your point, Stefan, that you said earlier, Comrade Ramaphosa realizes that if we don't prepare ourselves in terms of defense, one day someone will invade us. We need to combine our potential and see what we can produce together, build together. We don't need to keep buying from foreign arms supplier. Okay, ignore that last sentence for a second, for just a moment. He says we need to produce together and build together. I don't think the Brazilian president knows the state of our arms defense.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, David?
Long time ago, there was a very good army. Not anymore. I think maybe he's talking about Lesotho or something. Yeah, just walking across the border and taking over. Knows where. I mean,
now I see a cartoon that you can make with the Brazilian president and Cyril, and they're having their discussion, and the Brazilian says to Cyril, like, do you have, I don't know, maybe like a play on Go Fish, you know, like the card game, only this time you're doing it with army or you know, army stuff. So like, do you have a tanker? Go fish. Do you have a plane? Go fish. That kind of vibe.
What is the one minute the Navy SEAL chief or whatever officer was saying that the submarines are there to protect the people from sharks and going up rivers? I mean,
Yeah.
when you see in Simonstown, you notice every now and then you'll see this thing, and I've changed it. It's now called a marine. We used to have a submarine, but we just now have a marine because it never goes underwater. It just stays at the top and it just cruises. And I think maybe because it doesn't lock or something. So, yeah, how are we going to update the military?
Oh,
Have we got anything newer since, you know, is there any new weapons we've done? Is there anything in the army that we have done in the last 30 years?
No.
I know I did a few stories in the past year about the army, so I know that we have one Navy ship or something like a small ship that's still operational. We have a few tanks. We don't have an air force, basically. Like, I think there's one helicopter and one jet or something like that, and even that's now on its last legs. So, I mean, the Brazilian president has a point. If tomorrow someone decided, not even America, just someone decided, hey, let's just, you know, invade South Africa, we wouldn't put up much of a fight, I don't think. But Stephen, what do you think?
So, okay, it's ridiculous on the face of it, right? But more importantly, so let me just lay out why it is ridiculous. South Africa and Brazil is quite far away from each other, which means that if you're going to start forming military pacts, the last thing you want is a massive ocean dividing these two countries trying to work together. More importantly, Brazil is surrounded by nations that are all flocking towards America. So, you know, Brazil is not really in a position to, I think, project power outwards, because almost all of the South American countries are now walking towards America because America is extending an olive branch and saying, hey, we're going to help you fight your cartels and your drug issues. We're going to bring back, you know, law and order in the Western Hemisphere. So just on the face of that, I think Brazil, I think the right-wing party of Brazil is probably going to win the next election. But moreover, when you look at this, there's something far more interesting that is being revealed. Brazil and their president has taken note of the fact that Russia and China did not come to the aid of Venezuela and did not come to the aid of Iran. Because remember, that was the big gamble with BRICS. The whole point was, even if America wanted to act, we have Russia and China. They can stop America. But suddenly, Venezuela falls and Russia and China condemn it in the harshest possible terms, you know? And then America starts bombing the living crap out of Iran. And again, Russia and China is just like, hey, don't do that, bro. And that's the end of it, right? No ships, no subs, no nukes, no nothing. And I think Brazil's president finally realizes, guys, I think we may have joined an organization here that makes us an enemy of the guy that actually comes to defend his allies, right? Because America has proven themselves in the Middle East. You threaten our allies, we will destroy you. And that's effectively, I think, the biggest takeaway from this in terms of, are we going to go to war with America? No. And even if we did, the Navy would send like 3 guys in a rubber ducky. They'll blow up their flag on Margate Beach, and they'll be like, right, you guys are now part of America. And most South Africans would probably just go, cool. Like, you know.
I can see it happening, you know, like what we spoke about earlier about if Donald had bombed completely Iran. I mean, you'd have these folks coming in with their rubber duck to Margate, like you said, they'll jump aboard and they'll do, okay, let's do a quick analysis. Okay, hang on a minute, it's going to cost us this. It's just been bombed. Okay, let's just get up and move. It's going to cost us too many to fix.
Yeah. Yeah, from a cost-benefit analysis, it's not even worth fighting South Africa because the ANC is doing it for you. Like, they're destroying. You just need to give them time. They'll ruin the entire country for you. So yeah, it's like, you know, you don't need ballistic missiles when you have ANC in charge of Eskom. They'll make sure that there's no electricity. So
yeah, these are all fair points, but I was having a discussion earlier this morning with someone who watches my channel, and you know, some news came out about EWC and someone's property that was taken, and he was telling me like, yeah, no, we got to get this in front of the Trump administration and all that stuff. And I'm like, Trump knows, man. That's the thing. Like Trump knows. And even if he doesn't know right now, he will know when he's done with Iran, right? Like his administration, very focused on their goals at the moment. Very preoccupied with Iran, obviously. I'm sure Trump is bombarded with all the updates and strategies and all that stuff that's coming up. But the point I'm trying to make here is South Africa. I'll be surprised if South Africa is in his top 5 list. I don't think it is. I think he cares. I'm not saying that he doesn't care. I think he does care. I mean, he's done the refugee program for the Afrikaners and minorities in South Africa. So he obviously does care for South Africa on some level, and he hates communism, as you mentioned, Stefan. But is South Africa on the top of his radar where he's now going to pinch Cyril from his slumber in the middle of the night, like basically Majuro Cyril? I don't think so. I think Trump is either sitting on that for a while until the Iran thing is over, and even after the Iran thing's over, I think there's other bigger fish to fry. But I'm not saying either that Trump's going to leave South Africa to kind of fend for itself. I think he's waiting it out, because remember Cyril's not going to be president for much longer. I think this year the ANC is going to elect a new president, and who knows, maybe the next president, if it's Fikile or Paul Mashatile or whoever, might accelerate Trump's plans for South Africa. We don't know, because I know that, or at least I have a hunch that whoever the next president of the ANC is, they're sure as hell not going to backtrack on what Cyril's built. They're going to double down. They're going to embrace even more the Marxist, socialist, communist ideologies. It's going to get even worse. So maybe that's what Trump's waiting for. Who knows? But for right now, he's preoccupied, and South Africa, Brazil and South Africa doing this whole like, ooh, we need to defend ourselves, man. We gotta be careful. We gotta beef up security. First of all, Brazil, you're barking up the wrong tree. Cyril's probably going to take more of your army and then probably squander it and ask you for money as well. And basically going to take the army away from you, then sell it off to the black market. So none of you will be able to defend yourself. So yeah, wrong alliance there, in my opinion. But we move on to the next story, which I think is also maybe not relevant to Iran necessarily, or any of that's happening on the world, but something that I think some South Africans, well, I'm going to be interested to know what you and David think about this. And I have a feeling you're going to speak for a lot of the South Africans that are watching this. Ladies and gentlemen, it is without great pleasure to announce to you guys that we now have a new state-owned company. Stephens. I was waiting for the reactions. I can guarantee you, everybody watching just did what you guys did. A new state-owned company for South Africa to manage 155 billion rand portfolios. Just to give you guys a little bit of context here of what this is going to be. South Africa sees the creation of a new state company that will manage its 155 billion rand property portfolio as a path to a potential sovereign wealth fund. So what does this mean exactly? Well, basically, in a nutshell, the government owns a lot of land. One thing they don't mention here is that the government actually owns most of the land in South Africa, but they don't mention that. And they basically, the people that are managing these assets and land and pieces of land and all that stuff are doing a very bad job of it. It's all crumbling. It's all falling apart, yada, yada, yada. We're used to that. So now the solution is, let's just make another state-owned company, a new one, that will pick up the slack and basically fix the problem. So it's like when you run a restaurant, okay, and the kitchen is burning the food every time. And instead of hiring a new chef, they say, no, guys, we have a solution. We figured out the problem. We're just going to add a new kitchen.
Yeah,
that's basically what's happening here. But David, you're laughing a lot, so I want to get your thoughts on this.
It's just amazing. I mean, to me, I'm sure the ministers and deputy ministers and deputy ministers have all got portfolios which are doing what these people are supposed to be doing. So are they not doing anything at all? Shouldn't they be taken to a task and why this is happening? And then why is it only that? Surely it's every single part of our country that we need to have then a state-owned enterprise to fix what the state-owned have messed up. Just privatize everything. Let's sort it out quickly. That's yeah. I actually would like
Stefan,
to see if it's actually true. Like, maybe we got a fact check. Maybe it's April Fool joke come early or something.
Like an early April Fools. That would actually be funny. Like if it turned out that it was just an April Fools.
But you had a very strong reaction to this news, Stefan. So I can see maybe a rant is upcoming. What are your thoughts?
Well, okay. So first and foremost, just to give a bit of an disclaimer or explanation here for people who might not understand, the purpose of a sovereign wealth fund is to protect your currency, right? That's the entire idea. It protects your economy. Probably one of the nations with the best use of a sovereign wealth fund would be Norway and Denmark, where Norway basically uses all of its oil just to prop up the sovereign wealth fund. It doesn't use it for its economy. That's why Norway isn't reliant on its oil, the same way that Middle Eastern countries are. But ultimately, you need wealth for a sovereign wealth fund. Right? You need a country that is producing wealth. Ultimately, all they've done here is they've said, okay, all of these individual departments, and I think people need to understand how deep this problem runs. We have derelict buildings that belong, say, to the Department of Home Affairs that are standing empty while Department of Home Affairs builds new buildings for their headquarters and for their offices. And ultimately, what Dean McPherson said is, let's just take all of these buildings and start actually using them. And then instead of the individual departments running the buildings, which they clearly don't, we'll just give it to this new department that now runs all of the buildings in the country. It's just another form of centralization. We're just centralizing even more, right? And if you think about it, this is Cyril's answer to almost everything. Electricity is a problem. We have a minister and a department that is meant to be in charge. It's literally called the Minister of Minerals and Energy, right? That's the job of it. But no. We're now going to form an electricity department because the Minister of Energy and Minerals can't do energy. So we'll just centralize it in the new department. It's another centralization fund. And ultimately what's going to happen here is the underlying issue is not going to be resolved. The reason the Department of Defense started building new military bases rather than using the already existing ones had nothing to do with mismanagement. It had to do with cousins and aunts and uncles that just happened to find themselves in the construction industry, surprise, surprise, one day. And now they need to build military bases because, hey, there's a lot of money to be made here. This new department is just going to build a bunch of new buildings and make billions for the cadres. And nothing's really going to change. It's just going to be another looting opportunity because the underlying issue, the cadre issue of South Africa, that's going to be in that department, right? Do you think the ANC is going to put the DA in charge of this new department with all of that potential money? No.
No, absolutely not. Definitely not. And that's what's concerning about this whole thing. Because I mean, also you got to remember what funds this stuff, right? It's taxpayer money as well. This is what's going to happen. We've seen this play out before with other. I think it was Gavin Comer in the live chat that mentioned the other state-owned enterprises such as SAA, Denel, Post Office, SABC. All of these have fallen apart, and I know that some of the GNU enthusiasts will be like, "Yeah, but we have a GNU now, guys. It's going to be okay." No, it's not. Has anything really changed in the GNU? Has South Africa now become this new prosperous free market kind of society where
there's
the middle
green
class
shoots.
is increasing?
There's green shoots. Cyril said it, and Steenhuisen too. Green shoots.
Yeah, green shoots. And there's my bad, Stefan. You know, after Sona, I forgot that the president said that our GDP grew by how much again? 0.5?
No, it's like,
0.3?
yes, 0.5, 6, something like that. Amazing growth. Amazing growth, actually.
Yeah, David can afford to get more pens for his cartoons.
Yeah, you know, everyone feels a little richer in South Africa this morning, you know.
A new statue again, a very expensive statue that'll help everybody.
Oh,
Hey,
of course.
that's some economic growth right there.
Right there, because they've even got visitors going in, and I've got tourism already.
I mean, technically, it is a thing of value in the economy. So, you know, they've added value in the most broad sense of the word.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I think South Africa is I think South African people are going to be very upset about the situation because again, it's taxpayer money going towards something that we know that might not work out. Like we said, there's other departments that should rather be fixed up. I mean, the one good thing that is happening is Home Affairs. Now, there are some issues, of course, with what Home Affairs is implementing, but we got to be honest that Home Affairs is cleaning up house. Why can't Dean McPherson just do that in his own portfolio, basically? Why do you have to create a new state-owned enterprise and all that stuff? Like you pointed out, Stefan, like the Minister of Electricity, which was also a joke at the time. So yeah, it seems like Cyril loves his task forces, commissions, and state-owned enterprises.
I'll just throw this out there.
Yeah.
The only thing worse than a Marxist is a competent Marxist. And people need to understand that when it comes to the DA. Like, they are competent. That's why all of their departments are functioning, with the exception of agriculture, which is not functioning because I think with Steenhuisen's 150,000 Uber Eats bill, and I think we can safely say he's not the most competent person. I think he's a very nice person. Everyone I've heard that has met him says he's incredibly nice, and he is such a great guy to get to know. And I think that's the perfect political thing, right? Politicians need to be popular. But I do think that Dean McPherson, Jordan Neal Lewis, these are incredibly competent leaders. The issue is your ideology is going to determine the future, right? So, yeah.
Well, what are your guys' thoughts? Speaking about the DA now, what are you guys' thoughts on Jordan Hill Lewis running for leadership? David, what do you think about that?
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to let that one pass and pass it over to the next person. But yeah, I do agree with you. And I mean, about being competent, I mean that's something that we have to remember. And I see it firsthand now, moving down to public. You know, when you go back to Joburg and you drive around in the places that we took for granted, and you come back and look at, my goodness, there's a massive difference. So,
Mhm.
you know, as much as we want to moan and groan about the GNU and sometimes the DA, you have to give them a sense, like you said, that they are very competent and they do a great job.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
that's the reason why
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I come from Pretoria, right? I lived in Pretoria. I saw the downfall of that city, and then I moved to Cape Town. And it genuinely, the first time I drove through the cities of Cape Town, through the streets of Cape Town, and this was my first time in Cape Town ever, right? 4 years ago, I saw Cape Town for the very first time in my life. The furthest I've ever come down in South Africa was PE prior to this, and that was for a debate, South African debate competition. Um, so I've never been here, and I drove through the streets, and I was like, dude, this feels like Europe. I've been to the UK. This feels similar to that. All the streetlights are working. The streets are nicely, nice. No potholes anywhere. I've seen it go a bit downhill in the few years that I've been here, but I think it's because there's just so many people flooding here that the infrastructure is really getting tight, and it's difficult to keep everything up. But they are competent. That I will never take away from them. But as I said, it's going to depend on the ideology that you bring with you. And the problem with the DA so often is they're not only one thing ideologically, right? So you listen to Helen Zille. Helen Zille is I would say, probably a poster child for the mixed economic model. So a little bit of Adam Smith and a little bit of Karl Marx sort of put into one, where Helen Zille almost has this idea: Eskom exists, but private companies can also build nuclear power plants and coal-fired power plants and compete with Eskom, kind of like Telkom, right? So she has that sort of. I don't know what Jordan Hill Lewis actually believes, because listening to how he speaks, he sounds like a very big government kind of guy, but then he says things like the free market is important. I'm like, well, are you more on the side of Cyril, free market, or are you more on the side of Helen Zille, or are you like an actual libertarian almost? I don't know. I think he's going to be the leader. I don't even know the other two. I read the article and I saw their names and I was like, who the hell are these people? I don't know who either of these two people are. So I don't think they're going to win. Which is actually kind of sad, I think, in a way. I think the DA has done a pretty, and look, this is not going to be popular, but it is something we have to admit to ourselves in South Africa. The chances of a white leader winning the presidency of this country is quite low, right? Because you do have a lot of black people in this country that have bought into this idea that apartheid is just around the corner. And I think the DA has done a pretty bad job of bringing to the fore genuine black leadership. There are incredible black people in the DA, right? And if you actually follow the DA closely, you see these black voices coming through, young leaders coming through, but they're not yet national. So I want to see the DA start doing that maybe a little bit more, because that might give them more pull. I think Jordan E. Lewis is going to do well with the base. I don't think he's going to do well with the rest of the country. I think, unless, of course, the ANC continues to screw up, or maybe the polling is correct. I don't know.
There's a big chance of
Yeah, I
winning
think exactly. I think I agree with you, Stefan, on most of the stuff. I have a very interesting friendship with Jordan Hill Lewis. We're not friends by any means, but I mean we're not enemies either. I interviewed him recently on my channel, and yeah, typical politicians speak and stuff like that. But it was a good interview nonetheless. I think, from what I gather from Jordan, whether you agree with his ideology or not, or his political view, or what have you, I think he genuinely does care. That's one thing that I picked up from him. And he might have a warped perception on how things work, or he might have, I wouldn't say an agenda, but like a passion of his own, if I can put it that way. I think his views on socialist is going to be, or socialism is going to be his downfall. He's definitely a socialist Democrat. And I think that's going to rub people up the wrong way. I don't think it's as popular as he thinks it is, and I don't know. Maybe that's just the new direction for the DA, and because it seems to be a thing for political parties to sway socialist and start saying all the populist things, like look at what happened with Herman Mashaba, right? Herman Mashaba, when he first started with Action South Africa, he was all, free markets, capitalism. I remember there was an article that said that he's the Trump of South Africa, and now recently saying very racist and horrible things, not just about South Africans, but about minority groups, and advocating for BEE, advocating for all the socialist things, EWC. Yeah, there's been a complete flip with Herman Mashaba, which worries me. It makes me feel, and this is not the only politician to do this. It just makes me think that at some point politician leaders think, yeah, we've got to start saying this in order to get the votes, because we've seen that with the DA. The DA are definitely shifting their voter base. It's angering a lot of other voter base, the old ones that they used to have. I don't know if it's true what the polls are saying, that the DA. Some polls say the DA is increasing in support. Others say they're decreasing. Who knows? I think the only way to really know is at the elections. But yeah, I think that's just something that all politicians do, man. And we were kind of talking
So
about it before the show.
I would say one of the reasons for what you're describing is the human condition, right? Politics is about easy answers. If you try to explain to the average South African voter, we're going to have to grow the economy by implementing the right regulations at the right time, freeing up the market to start building business, and we're going to get the education system so that your kids can be more educated than you were. And in 3-4 generations, we will start generating wealth, and eventually you'll be rich. That's so over the average person's head of how economics actually works, versus I'm going to take from the rich and give to the poor. It's simple, it's easy, everyone understands it. It doesn't work, but everyone understands it, right? And so politicians are always going to be, I think, drawn to this feel-good thing, because politicians want to be popular. And so everyone instinctively doesn't like rich people. And so when you say, I'm going to take from the rich and give to the poor, people just sort of like that. Never mind the fact that just it takes 2 seconds of logical thinking to realize if you take from the rich will just take that right back from the poor. They'll just increase their prices until they've made back the money that they've lost, right? That's actually a cartoon, David, that you could make. It is showing how increased taxes is always a tax on the poor. Doesn't matter who you tax. It will always filter down to the poor. But, it doesn't sound bad. So,
See, David, I told you, you're going to get like so many ideas for cartoons. Just like rewatch this and jot some ideas down, Yeah. I think, listen, the poor, yeah, I think that's one thing that really irritates me about politicians. They always want to use the poor to as what do you call it, like tools to or
yeah.
pawns in their scheme, like we're gonna get you guys this, we're gonna get you guys that, we're gonna give you this, we're gonna give you that, and then never deliver on it. No politician in South Africa has ever delivered on what they promised, which is taking South Africans out of poverty and giving them a chance to be prosperous, a great education, And this is like has always baffled me, Stephen. And maybe you've got some insight on this too, because we're running out of time. But just very quickly, you know, the one thing I've constantly said is that if the ANC had focused on being or creating a South Africa that was prosperous, where you had a growing middle class, a thriving economy, right? What happens with that? People can afford more money in their wallets, which means people can afford medical aid, schooling, all that stuff. The price goes down because it becomes affordable, supply and demand, yada yada. I'm heavily paraphrasing everything and putting everything into a nutshell. It's far more complicated, I know, but in a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. And it could have been done. It could have been done in 30 years. ANC was in power for 30 years. It could have been done. As a matter of fact, when Becky, I almost said Becky Cele, Mbeki was president, GDP was growing very high, lowest unemployment rates we've ever had in South Africa. Zuma takes over, all goes to hell. Now, that's proof that South Africa had a chance of becoming that prosperous nation. ANC killed it.
Yeah.
What's ironic about all this is that had the ANC focused on doing that, on making South Africa this beautiful, prosperous place where the middle class has grown, gotten people out of poverty, all that stuff, they would still be in power. They would still be voted for. I mean, every government is corrupt. Newsflash for everybody. Every government is corrupt, no matter where you are in the world. Okay. Now, would you be okay with paying tax if the hospitals worked, the schools were great, service delivery was being done, all that stuff? Everything was perfect, run nicely. And you hear every now and again, corrupt official took a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Honestly, if I'm able to provide for my family and put food on the table, afford all the kinds of stuff, go on trips and travel and all that stuff, live a good life, wouldn't really care, to be honest, because things are still being delivered. It's horrible to say, but that's the truth. Yeah. Now, why? Why do you think the ANC basically went against that? Because they could still be in power. People are not stupid. Like, people will be like, oh, no, the ANC has delivered an excellent life for me, so I'm going to vote for you guys to stay in power. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So the honest answer is ideology, right? Remember what I said. Humans don't process information, we filter it. There's a fascinating thing that I discovered a few months ago when you look at South Africa's economic growth from like the 1920s. And it's exactly the same as the ANC up until Jacob Zuma. It doesn't change. You'll have 1 or 2 years of quite good growth, right? 4.5%. And then you'll have this like minus 1.9, minus 1.8. And then it sort of goes back up. And this was before sanctions even. South Africa's economy is just constantly doing this. It never goes on like a proper growth spurt and just continues growing year on year. And for the ANC, or for the National Party back in the day, the answer was right in front of them. Now, imagine quickly for a second this. If the National Party decided to educate Black people, so really put a lot of effort into educating Black people, and then slowly but surely started incorporating Black people into the white economy, slowly but surely started allowing them to open businesses in white areas, maybe start buying homes in white areas. In 30 years, you would have a third, maybe almost a half of Black people living amongst white people, fully educated in a democratic system, how a democratic system is supposed to function. And maybe 2 or 3 generations after that, Black people finally get to vote completely organically. But now Black people have the education, they understand the system, they're fully engrossed in it. They understand that I don't just vote along racial lines, I vote along ideological lines, right? I vote about who's going to do the best job for the best reasons and in the best way. And suddenly, you wouldn't even have the apartheid government overthrow in 1992 and ultimately the democratically elected government of the ANC in 1994, because everything would have just worked. Why didn't they do that? Why were they okay with riding this, seesaw of economic growth because of their socialist policies? Ideology. and the same is true for the ANC. They genuinely believe that they can make South Africa function from the centralized position, right? They have to be the ones that bring about the prosperity of South Africa. You mentioned we could have fixed South Africa in 30 years. It takes 3 generations to create wealth. The father works the field, but he makes enough money to help his kid finish school at least. The kid that finishes school works in the factory that processes the food coming from the field. But he has enough money to send his kids to university. That kid owns the factory, right? 3 generations, that's all you need in order to get people to a place where they're actually making money. That's 30 years. We could have been in a position now where a lot of black kids would own the factories and would open factories and would actually boost the economy. But instead, for the ANC, it's this, they can't see past their own failures because they just think just a little bit more. Lenin did the same thing. Stalin did the same thing. Just a little bit more communism and we'll have this thing sorted out, you know?
just a little bit more, just a little bit.
Yeah.
This time we'll do it right. This time will be different, guys. This time will be different.
It's always a 5-year plan, right? Every single communist government has a 5-year plan, and then another 5-year plan. So yeah.
Oh Lord, yeah. All right. In closing, David, do you have anything to add?
No, yeah. I mean, all of us agree in one thing, that they're one of the biggest, and I don't understand how they've never been taken to task about it, is the ANC and education. I mean, they stuffed that up so completely. I mean, one of the worst things they did was closing technicons. I mean, not everyone's got the ability to be a brain person and go study these fancy things. There's a lot more of us that don't worry about technique. You know, we want to be hands-on. We want to plumbers. We want, you know, and they just closed everything and brainwashed everyone to say you must go to university. So I think that's one of, and no one ever really said anything about it. You know, they just, it's loud. But anyway, that's
and David, just let our viewers know, where can they catch the next cartoon? Where can people follow you to see all your great funny cartoons, political cartoons?
On all the social platforms at David D Tunes. You can find me. You should be able to find me anywhere in those ones, any of the social platforms.
Great. You can see there, ladies and gentlemen, David D Tunes. And Stefan, where can people find you, man? And what do you got coming up?
No, okay. So anywhere, Stefan ZA, you can just look for that. What I have coming up is basically just more Iranian news, South African news. And I just want to say one thing of what David said there. If there is ever a reason to prosecute anyone for treason, what was done to the education system, that is treason.
100%.
100% on that. All right. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joe Emilio. I would like to thank my guests today for joining me, guys. Thank you guys so much. We'll have you back on the show as soon as we can. But remember, guys, we're going to have Truth Report Live every Tuesday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. We'll have different panelists, different guests every time. So please tune in, mark it on your calendar every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.